Hey, folks! The state, they are trying to revoke Monktonk's plea deal, his parole. Yeah, the prosecution, I mean, remember, they didn't do it to the previous witnesses' plea deals before Monktonk, but to him they did. So, let's go through it. And here it is. Let me get... Where did it go? There it is. Let's get it a bit bigger. All right. Let's do that instead. Oh, no. Well, that one. That one. All right. State of Georgia versus Mr Sledge. State's motion to revoke probation. State's motion and petition to revoke probation. The state of Georgia by and through Miss Willis, DA for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit of Georgia, and the underside, Chief Deputy District Attorney Adam Abate, hereby moves his honorable court to revoke the defendant's probation in the above styled manner in accordance with OCGA, that number, and other authority. In support of this motion, the state presents the following to the court. On December 28th, 2022, the defendant pled guilty to conspiracy to violate the RICO Act and possession by a firearm. Chief Judge Mr. Glanville sentenced him to 30 years of probation. The general and special conditions of probation were detailed in the final disposition sentencing sheet filed on that date. First of all, I think 30 years probation is lunacy. Absolute lunacy. Who knows what happens in 30 years? I've never heard of 30 years probation, unless it is somebody is let out from a 99-year sentence. But this is not one of these times. The general and special conditions of probation were detailed in the final disposition sentencing sheet filed on that date. Chief Judge Glanville, who is, as you remember, was yeeted for absolute good reason, imposed several special conditions on the defendant's probation, including a requirement that they fully adhere to all terms of the negotiated agreement. Any failure to comply with these terms will be considered a violation of the agreement. Of pertinence to this motion are the following special conditions. A. Defendant shall abide in full by each and all of the terms of this negotiated agreement. Defendant's failure to abide by any term of this agreement shall constitute a violation of the agreement. Yeah, this is more or less, I mean, I've said this on my live streams that it seems like these plea deals, first of all, are really, really poorly written. Extremely poorly written, in my opinion. And they are made to set people up. And this is probably the standard in Fulton County. Get them into a plea agreement, force them to say something that didn't happen later. That is my opinion. But generally, really, really poorly written. Defendant shall testify truthfully about all matters related to this case, upon which he is questioned at any trial or judicial proceedings stemming from the facts alleged in this indictment. Also, I believe is completely horrendous. But then again, if he is telling the truth, if he is testifying truthfully about all matters, then the plea deal still isn't viable. Because, Kristen, because he called love out on her lies. In accordance to testifying truthfully about all matters relating to this case, defendant acknowledges that each and all of the statements contained within the quote-unquote defendant's factual acknowledgements section of this agreement are true. And we know, since his testimony and testimony from his attorney, that some stuff in there was clearly false. Defendant shall testify truthfully about each statement contained within quote-unquote defendant's factual acknowledgement and any matters related to this case when asked to do so in any proceeding related to the facts alleged in this indictment. That more or less means that not only will he be forced to testify in this trial, he might be forced to testify in all the trials. You know, there are 12 more awaiting trial, to my recollection. Okay, number 3. Defendant violated special conditions of his probation. The defendant has violated all the special conditions of his sentence outlined above. On September 4th, 2024, he was called to testify in the trial of this case, with his testimony continuing through September 6th, during which he underwent both direct and cross-examination. During his testimony, the defendant directly contradicted the special conditions of his plea agreement by disavowing the factual acknowledgement he had sworn were accurate and true during the plea hearing on December 28th, 2022. Here, he can blame his lawyer. Definitely. Because more or less, he relied on his attorney. And we now know, since his attorney testified in court in the YSL trial, that he missed some things in the plea agreement. So yeah, that might be his one chance. At that time, he had opportunity to correct or clarify any statements in the factual acknowledgement before affirming their truth under oath. He also confirmed that he fully understood the agreement and had discussed it in detail with his chosen attorney, Derek Wright. Which we now know probably didn't happen. Probably did not happen. Most importantly, the defendant acknowledged that he understood that any violation of the special conditions of this plea agreement could lead to the revocation of his probation, with the district attorney recommending the maximum sentence allowed by law in the Georgia Department of Corrections, which apparently is 30 years. He confirmed both in writing and verbally that he entered into the plea agreement freely, knowingly, and voluntarily without any force, threat, or coercion. Yeah. He wanted, remember, the prosecution put a lot of people in jail. Then through bad plea agreements, let them rot there for 6 months or more. Then through plea agreements towards them. And people just wanted to go home. And that's the standard, apparently, in Fulton County, Georgia. It is evident that the defiant knowingly and willfully violated the special conditions of his negotiated plea agreement with the intent to disrupt the trial of this case. Therefore, the state of Georgia requests that this petition to revoke probation be scheduled for an evidentiary hearing and that the defendant be ordered to appear before this court to explain why his probated sentence should not be revoked in its entirety. Adam Abate. And then you have the exhibits, which is the judgment, 30 years, served on probation, general conditions, highlighted things, first offender, conditional discharge, sign, yeah. Judge Glanville, yeah, his mom was dying. Remember that. His mom was dying at the time. Then condition exhibit B. This is the negotiated. Yeah, this is the actual plea deal. I have no interest in it. Let's see a transcript of the guilty plea. Yeah. Not really interested in that. I want to hear if they actually put in his testimony from trial. And it doesn't seem like it. Nope. Nope. So they didn't put in his actual testimony. That's interesting. But this will probably be in front of Judge Whittaker, who saw this happen. Because Judge Glanville is gone from this case. And yeah, I have no idea what will happen to Mr. Sledge. It is up to the court now. I would assume that Mr. Wright will write a response to this. Well, don't know when that will come out. But as of now, and we talked about this during trial, during his testimony, that there is a possibility that Miss Love will go really, really scorched earth on people who she believes is violating their plea agreements. So this might just be the first one in a series. We don't know about the previous ones. It's also a bit underhanded threat to the coming people who will testify under a plea agreement. Usually, these things happens after trial, not during trial. So clearly, for me at least, this is an underhanded threat to coming witnesses who will testify under a plea agreement. And yeah, I have no idea what will happen. This will make it a little bit harder, but this is well within the rights of the prosecution, because he did testify against his plea agreement. He did. And now he might pay for it. But none of the defendants or the defense's lawyers bear any responsibility in this. This is between Mr. Sledge and his lawyer. The defendants and their attorneys are there for themselves. That they have no responsibilities against the people who took plea deals. None. Okay, that is what I had about this specific document. All right. Hug your family, folks. Unless your family is crap, then screw them and give your love to the people who deserve it. See ya.